Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Jamie Foxx. Just being present with those who reach out to me. Yes, that's it. That's it. Okay, y'all. Last little bit that we're gonna do today. I'm not gonna take us through a meditation. My apologies. Next week I'll be back on it for you all in that regard. Okay, so let's see here. I want to do the transits. So, what I remember noting with Jamie Foxx, I don't know why I thought his moon was in Scorpio, but I knew he had something with Scorpio and Taurus. And I want to say, let's see here, back in May, we had an eclipse at 28 degrees of Taurus, but we also had one at 14. No. We did not have one at 28 of Taurus. We had one at 14 of Scorpio. And then, yeah, I'm just going to go with that one. We had one at 14 of Scorpio. And so if we think about the degree of the eclipse, you can go 10 degrees on both sides of it. It's going to include 10 degrees out from both sides of it. So if it was at 14 degrees of Scorpio, that means it was hitting up this Venus, okay? Because this Venus is 7 degrees away from where that moon was. And then it pretty much was right there opposite this moon. I mean, because it was 14 degrees of Scorpio, which means that there was a part of the eclipse, because the eclipse happens in both of these signs. It happens in two signs at one time. Even if the eclipse is happening in Scorpio, Virgo is feeling it 100%, right? So it's as if his moon completely got hit up by that eclipse. Now, the part of the eclipse that's about releasing and letting go is down here in Scorpio. So it was like sloughing off something with his his Venus. And look at where it happened. I don't even remember if this is the accurate birth time, but I'm going to go with it. This is all happening. Yeah, it must be accurate for me to have this chart pulled up. So this is happening in his sixth house of health and wellness. So that alone, even if he didn't have this moon over here, if he only had this Venus over here, that alone could create some havoc for him. I wonder if it had something to do with his heart. And the reason I say that is because Venus rules Libra, which is on his fifth house. Like, if I want to know what is this going to affect, then I'd have to look and see, well, the signs that Venus rule, where are they in his chart? And that'll tell me what could have potentially been impacted, right? So it impacted his Venus, which means that it could have impacted his heart. The fifth house has to do with the heart, or the cardiovascular system is something else it could have been. Sometimes it's the hair, but the back. That's what I was thinking of, the back. Okay. But the crazy part about it is, when we think about the other sign that Venus rules, it's Taurus. And his moon is in Taurus, which means that if this Venus got impacted, then this house, this Taurus house, it could tell me something. Now, what I'll tell you is that all the secret, even though he came back out and she finally like emerged this week, think about how secretive it was. He wanted it kept secret. He did not want his daughter and sister, he said, knew to keep things under wraps because he didn't want people to see him that way. So it was a lot of secretive stuff around this illness that he had. And this house right here has to do with death. And he talked about how he didn't know if he was going to live or if he was going to die, right? And so, this man truly, this was a pivotal life experience for him. But this moon moon represents health and hormones and body and that kind of thing. So it was like his health got a double whammy. His health got a double whammy. And I bet you something was showing when these eclipses first moved there back in, I'm going to say maybe even as far back as, let me see here, 2021, fall of 2021. I bet you something kind of came up and he kind of didn't pay attention to it. But anywho, those eclipses banged him up. And that's when we heard, it was right around eclipse time when we heard Jamie Foxx is in the hospital. And, it just went on and on and on. Well, last week, the eclipses moved into a new place. Oh, this is crazy. This is crazy. He is having a nodal return. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I didn't even look at this chart before we started. Let me do something really quickly. This is interesting because this is going to tell me even more about what's happening next for Jamie Foxx. So let me show you here. This is just a universal chart. You can see that the north node right here, this thing right here, this little curly Q thing right here, is called the north node. It's on the 29th degree of Aries. And that means that opposite, which is the upside down version of that, which is the south node, is now in Libra. I'm telling y'all, as a Scorpio rising, I feel so much better. Now I know I got to get myself together. I got a year and a half of like integrating everything that happened over these eclipse seasons. I'm telling you, I feel better. Aries and Libra is your turn. I just keep trying to give y'all heads up. But anywho, so the eclipses moved out of the signs where his health is being impacted. And all of a sudden, this was like last Monday, I think, the eclipses moved into Aries and Libra. And all of a sudden, Jamie Foxx reemerges. But I want to show you where his nodes are. We all have this in our chart. Everyone is born with the nodes. We have the north node, we have the south node. And look at this. Jamie Foxx is having a nodal return. Wow. Wow. This means that he's having a renewal in his whole life. Jamie Foxx just went through all of this. Maybe the universe was like, we're going to have to make sure he stays, what's the word I want to use? Aligned with his destiny. And that health challenge that came up because he was like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Because of God. Thank you, God. He has a whole new lease on life. He didn't talk for long, but you could hear him like still like, I'm really trying to make sense of what just happened and what do I need to do with my life, So my prayer is that Jamie Foxx will maybe not rush back into working the way he was. I hope he doesn't. I'm just being 100. It's also interesting that Netflix, I don't know if it's a movie. My husband was watching it. Something with Jamie Foxx. I can't watch movies like that. It was just too much for me. Yeah. But anywho, it looked interesting, like creatively interesting. But anywho, the nodes go into a new sign. This movie comes out and Jamie Foxx all of a sudden reemerges in a video. And that's the eclipses for you. That's astrology. That's what's called a transit. And so sometimes when people are struggling, when they get a reading with me, I may not be able to tell them extensively, this is what's going to just like fix your problem. But what I can do is give them hope and help them to understand how long do I anticipate this happening? Because sometimes if you think, well, astrology says it's going to last for 6 months, 2 years. It could be 2 years, y'all. I'm just 100. I've been through these transits. You have too. You may not have known it. But when you know that this is going to last for a while, then you don't think, oh, something must be wrong with me. Instead, you just think, let me learn the lesson. It gives you an opportunity to really work with the energy so that you can integrate it. So Jamie Foxx is going to definitely move in a new direction